Welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy early start to this nice Tuesday. It's a nice Tuesday because Bitcoin's actually finally moving after 3 weeks in the same damn range. And now we have 30,000 plus. Absolutely beautiful, as we've been looking at on the higher term time frame statistical setups. And I wanted to follow up on that. Essentially, where could this rally lead towards? Where are the sort of areas of interest to be aware of, and the timing of it as well. Other than that, I want to once again let you know that the Jewel light you can actually get for free for the first 30 days if you follow the directions in the link in the description below. And then also, we're actually going to be changing the service with the Jewel light coming up on April 17th. I got that wrong before, but it's April 17th, where it will go from its current iteration into a new sort of thing where it will be actually having a slightly higher price point. I do want to let anyone know who currently has premium at the current price point, nothing will change for you. You don't have to do anything. It's all good. Don't worry. Of course, it'd be very, immoral to just like jack it up on people who already have it. That's a prior agreement. But going forwards from there, yes, things will change. And what else? And then also the old Bybit shill as well. But we don't have enough time for that, man. We have time to get into price action right here. So I want to start off things with CME chart for Bitcoin. Once again, revisiting the 5-day Gaussian channel setup, because we did identify this several weeks ago now, of which the big thing was closing above the mean band here, which it had been living under and getting rejected from for the past year, so a little bit more than a year now, I suppose. And once that did happen, it did set into the buys that Bitcoin very likely trades sideways and up into the low $30,000 territory. And traditionally speaking, we've seen a free ride for price to test the top side of the Gaussian channel here whenever we've seen this particular setup occur. If we go back and backtest the full history of this, I think it's best to use spot price action for this one. But what I'm talking about is this right here. The Gaussian channel turns red, Bitcoin pops back in, reclaims the mean band, and then gets a free ride to the top side of the Gaussian channel. And actually in all cases, all prior cases, it's actually busted out of the top side of the channel as well. So I do suppose that long term, or relatively long term, that is still within the cards here, which would imply not just I suppose the current top side channel as an area of interest, which is about just under 33,000 bucks on CME here. Do keep in mind that there is a premium over spot price action, but traditionally speaking, at least historically speaking, all prior times it has actually busted up above the top side of the Gaussian channel, gone for a more significant run. Kind of think back to yes, this one over here in 2019, essentially, where you did see it bust back above about 6,000 bucks, and then of course, from there, it didn't just stop at the top side of the Gaussian channel. It did stop for like a few weeks, but obviously the overall rally continued for a pretty impressive move all the way up to nearly 14,000 bucks. Anyways, going back to our current iteration, I would still say that the top side of the Gaussian channel right here, very likely going to be a nice pullback region, and then we can kind of play the same game as we did with the mean band in essence, that if and when Bitcoin does bust and close above it, that's at the point where we can start to look for greater moves into probably the deep 30s. Maybe I'm not going to say it right now, it's too far away, but maybe even more than that as well. But deep 30s would probably be the next major area of interest, probably somewhere around like 38 to 39,000 bucks. Anyways, moving on now, as we can get into and follow up on the volatility versus stochastic momentum setup over here, giving us which can give us some more ideas as far as where this current rally likely finds its area of interest and the timing of that. I want to once again go over the full-on setup, of which the daily volatility getting down towards extreme lows, which are defined as below here, 10 percentile or more, that green vertical bar representing that area, and then expanding from those extreme lows has led to an average move about 20%, and the direction of the stochastic also has been very highly correlated with the direction of volatility expansion. So in this case, yesterday we identified that, on Sunday, Bitcoin did actually meet and fulfill the pivot for upside on the daily stochastic, and then yesterday it followed through on that as well, as Bitcoin obviously closed above, I believe it was 28,400. Yeah. Anyways, the new pivot for Bitcoin to remain with upside momentum is 29,100. That is to say that this rally very likely continues as long as Bitcoin is above that pivot. So now that we've gone through this, we can go through the actual back-tested data over here. In this case, this is obviously going to be a long setup because we do have volatility expansion in motion here, obviously. As you can see, it's quite fucking vertical, very erect, you might say, very upright and postured well, but in this case, back above the critical zone, also with positive slope and above the moving average, but all having positive slopes. Anyway, so yes, going back into it here, when we backtested the setup over the past 5 years, there's been 14 prior iterations. Of those 14, the 12 of those 14 did move in the same direction as the stochastic oscillator. In this case, obviously that's going to increase the hit rate, so it's going to be 13 out of 15. Now, the average return was about 20%, and the standard deviation was about 5.5%. So that gives us a range of about 15 to 25%, with, again, the average right on at about 20%. On top of that, this did occur over an average of about 9-10 days or so, with a standard deviation of 3 days. So, we're looking at maybe like 10 days to a week, essentially. From the official setup, which would actually have been fired off right here. And so far, we've already seen about a 9% move from that low. So for the people who did front run that was quite nice. That's what we've been speaking about a lot. That's why I try to catch these a little bit on the earlier side, so that, the people who are more aggressive, well, you can kind of see it coming, from a mile away. Anyways, thus far, it has been, I would say, 2 days. We're working on day number 2. Yesterday was basically the first day, but today would be day number 2. That's Tuesday. So, again, about 10 to 14 days away from now. That puts us into where? That puts us into kind of the mid portion of April, maybe even later portion of April, like the early 20s. And if we go for the bottom end of the first standard deviation, guess where that would be? 32,300 or so, which is interesting because that's very much in alignment with what we saw over here on the top side of the Gaussian channel, very much within the same vicinity of that prior region. But again, that would actually be on the lower end of the first standard deviation. If things do go for the average, that would be 20%. That would put Bitcoin just below $34,000, and on the upper end, 25% would put Bitcoin at about $35,000. 35,000 also very interesting because that is one of the last remaining CME gapolas that we saw coming in from the breakdown of May of 2022. Yeah, actually exactly right there. So right here, on the chart, as you can see. So all of those areas very likely do get played, or at least there are areas of interest. If Bitcoin does get there, those are the places I'd be looking for short-term pullbacks, and then kind of reassess at those points. And they all pretty much work hand in hand as well between the Gaussian channel and this setup over here, and also other setups that we've been looking at. But I don't think it's super important to be going over every fucking setup on every damn video, because then it just becomes probably boring and predictable. But in this case, we can once again reference the 12-hour HPDR setup. That was also another thing that we were looking at yesterday for the past 3 weeks, as defining the current range rather well. Basically, range highs right around the median here at about 28,600, range lows at about $27,000. As long as Bitcoin's between there, it's a nice consolidation. Little bit of a favor towards the upside, just based off of the statistical setups that we've been looking at, that we haven't spoken about on this particular video. But of course, the break above the median band here, the median band, just the median, and Bitcoin did get that move up towards $30,000 as we were looking for, based off that particular setup. We get to play the same game over here as well, in the sense that if Bitcoin can start to close higher term timeframes above $30,000, naturally speaking, the next sort of major area of interest is going to be somewhere around about 32. So we see a lot of these numbers can't continue to pop onwards and upwards, no pun intended, but yes, I would still be actually biased towards continuation of this rally. And of course, that always comes with an invalidation. In this case, the invalidation would be very, very clear, below $29,000. That's where, this one starts to turn around. And of course, that's where, prior setups are to be invalidated. So again, as long as Bitcoin's above $29,000, the breakout is real as far as I'm concerned, and kind of looking, for upwards and onwards over the next, let's just say like 10 days, probably 10 days on average. I think that's probably a good place to be leaving off on this particular video. Yeah, it's a good place to be leaving off. You already know the Bybit shill. You already know the Jewel Light. You already know. That's exactly right. All right. Sounds wrong though. It's like, or. Anyways, I'm just talking shit now. I want to be wishing the best. Take care. Much love, and see you hopefully soon.